Okay, what if I told you there's a proven way to get twice as much work done in half the time? I know, it sounds a little too good to be true, but today we're going to deconstruct a method that does exactly that. Let's dig in. We love a good struggle, right? I mean, this quote from Teddy Roosevelt, it's practically our cultural mantra. The real hero is the one who's in the arena, grinding it out, covered in dust and sweat and blood. We're taught that raw effort, that sheer force of will, is what leads to victory. But here's a thought. What if all that sweat and blood is just being wasted? What if we're striving valiantly in a system that's completely broken? What if the real enemy isn't the challenge itself, but the outdated playbook we're all forced to use? To really understand just how high the stakes are, we need to look at a real-world story. A story about a truly catastrophic failure with a price tag well over $1 billion.
So, rewind to after the 9/11 attacks. A really scary truth emerged. The 9/11 Commission discovered that the FBI's information systems were, and this is a direct quote, woefully inadequate. I mean, think about that. Agents in Phoenix had critical info that agents in Minnesota needed, but the systems were so bad they couldn't connect the dots. The Bureau literally didn't know what it already knew.
So they launched a huge project to fix it, called Sentinel. And it was an absolute train wreck. Look at this timeline. 4 years go by. They burned through more than $400 million. And the result? Zero. Nothing. Not a single piece of working software was delivered. They had to scrap the whole thing.
So what went so wrong? Well, the main culprit was a way of planning that belongs in a museum. We're talking about things like the Gantt chart, where you try to map out every single step of a multi-year project before you even start. You know, this thing was literally invented around World War I. It's an artifact.
And look, this isn't a new idea. General Eisenhower knew it way back when. Plans are great, but they almost never survive first contact with the real world. You can spend months making the world's most beautiful plan, but in the end, it's often just a work of fiction. All right, so if the old way of doing things is the problem, what's the solution? Well, it turns out it required a completely different, a radically different way of thinking about work itself. And that solution is called Scrum. Now, the official definition sounds a bit academic, but here's what it really means. It's a flexible framework, not a rigid plan. It's designed specifically for those messy, complex problems where you can't predict everything up front. It's about letting a team be creative and, well, actually deliver stuff that works. The philosophy at its heart is just so simple and powerful. Stop guessing what the future holds. Seriously, just stop. Instead, you work in a short, repeatable cycle. You build a little, you check to see if it's right, you inspect it, and then you adjust your plan based on what you just learned. You adapt. Inspect and adapt. That's it. So, okay, how does this actually play out in the real world? Let's break down the core components, the very DNA of what makes these teams so incredibly effective. The absolute heart of Scrum is something called the sprint. It's a short work cycle, maybe 2 weeks, that has a fixed end date, no extensions, and in that time, the team does these 4 things. They plan a small, manageable piece of work. They actually do it. They build it. Then they check the finished result. And finally, they act on what they've learned to adapt the plan for the very next sprint. It's a constant loop of progress. Now, to keep that fast pace going, every single day the team has a 15-minute meeting. And this is not some boring status update for a manager. No way. This is for the team. It's like a football huddle. Everyone quickly answers 3 questions. What did I get done yesterday? What am I going to do today? And, this is the most important one, what's getting in my way? The whole point is to identify and destroy roadblocks immediately. All right, this next rule, it might feel a little backwards at first. The perfect team size is small, like really small. We're talking 7 people, give or take 2. Why? Well, there's this old saying in software, adding more people to a late project just makes it later. And it turns out that's absolutely true. And this slide, this right here, shows you the math behind that rule. It is fascinating. Look how the lines of communication just explode as you add people. With 5 people, you have 10 different channels to manage. Manageable, right? Now jump up to 12 people, you suddenly have 66 channels. It's just too much. It creates drag, and everything grinds to a halt. And the teams that really knock it out of the park with this method, they all share 3 key traits. First, they're transcendent. They have a shared purpose that's bigger than just their individual jobs. Second, they're autonomous. They're trusted and given the freedom to make their own decisions on how to get the work done. And finally, they're cross-functional.
This is huge. It means all the skills you need, design, engineering, testing, you name it, are all right there on the team. No waiting around.
So let's bring it all home. Let's get to the climax of the story and see how this radically different way of working came in and rescued the FBI's billion-dollar disaster.
So, just to recap the before picture. The old way. 4 years of work. $405 million spent. And a grand total of 0% of the project actually finished. I mean, it's just a staggering failure by any measure. And then, a small, empowered team came in and used Scrum. Just look at this transformation. In about a year, using only around $20 million of the leftover money, they delivered 100% of the project. 100%. It worked. It was done. The turnaround is just incredible.
So how is that even possible? Well, here's one of the secret weapons. Because of that constant inspect and adapt cycle, you find mistakes almost immediately. And the data on this is wild. A bug that's found just 3 weeks after it's created takes 24 times longer to fix than if you'd caught it the same day. Scrum just eliminates that massive time suck by design.
But it wasn't just about process. Jeff Johnson, the guy who actually led that FBI turnaround, he nailed it with this quote. He said the most powerful part was showing the stakeholders a real, working product every few weeks. It wasn't about the developers. It was about building trust and getting real feedback from the people who mattered. It was a total culture shift.
And that's really the big idea I want you to walk away with. Even though Scrum was born in the software world, its principles, small teams, short cycles, constant feedback, they're universal. This is a mindset that can empower any team in any field to cut through the bureaucracy, stop wasting time, and focus on what actually matters, delivering real value way faster. Which brings us to one final, really important question for you to think about. The way we work isn't some law of nature. It's a choice. Every single day, we choose it. So looking at how you and your team operate, are you making the right one?